Howdy, folks. This is Doc Owen. You are listening to the inaugural broadcast of Doc on the digital airwaves. This is the Doc Owen Show. This is our first venture into 100% digital work. We are available on Spreaker.com, which is where you are listening. We will soon be available on iHeartRadio Talk. They've put together a specific channel for talksters, so talk show type formats, and we will be on that. I'm not sure what their approval cycle is, but this show and previous shows will be submitted, and I think we're going to meet with their criteria. I've studied them pretty closely. Let me give you as is the tradition, the digital addresses or social media addresses, if you prefer the term. We have a blog at www.docowenshow.com. We have a Twitter account. My Twitter handle is @DocOwenShow. We have a Facebook page at facebook.com/DocOwenShow. My email address is doc@docowenshow.com. And we're doing podcasting, so all of our live broadcasts immediately become a podcast. So if you have friends and neighbors that you think might like to hear something that's on the show, they can always go to the docowenshow.com blog or Spreaker and pick up the podcast. So all of those are spelled the same way. It is DocOwenshow. All one word. Just run it all together. Doc Owen Show. That's the address on everything that we're doing. Everything is tied together. As a matter of fact, as I've been learning through this process of going digital, it is scary tied together. So you have to be a little bit cognizant of what you say and what you are posting. So we do have a question, as will be the tradition on all of these live broadcasts. There will be a question up on the Facebook page for you to participate, at least in the interim. While we don't have a telephone, I'll explain that in just a minute. But if you look, the very last post on the Doc Owen Show Facebook page is the spectra of immigration reform is back in the news. And what do you think we should do? You are welcome to log in, post a comment. That's the way we're going to communicate tonight. So if you're listening to me on your computer, which is most likely, or a tablet, you might just want to open another instance of the browser, bring up the Facebook page, and you can give me a comment on the immigration reform that's beginning to be talked about in the House of Representatives. Let's talk about the telephone for a minute. Unfortunately, we are missing a very small little chip to this digital forecasting thing we put together, and it did not arrive. But I can assure you it'll probably be in tomorrow or the next day, and we will certainly have it by next Thursday's broadcast, so that I'll be able to push out the phone number over Facebook and post it to the blog. I'll get the word to you so that you know what the call-in number is. So that'll allow us to function 100% like a terrestrial radio. And we should be off and running. So the next point that I wanted to make is about the technology and seniors. Folks, I qualify as a senior, but that's only a card that I play when it's going to get me a discount. And other than that, you might note that the picture on the Doc Owen Show all around is a picture of me holding a giant snowboard. I just learned how to snowboard last year. So, and I'm not going to tell you that I'm that good at it, but I am going to tell you that I'm going to keep at it. And so, senior is very much a relative term for most everybody. The idea behind the show, even when it was on the AM radio, took a very distinctive move over to the youth environment. We wanted to talk to the youth. Some of the podcasts that you will see out there on Spreaker, quite a few of you have listened, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. When we were trying to have 100 followers on Spreaker by the time we went on the air, as it turned out, we had 96 right before I hit the on-air button. So hopefully before we finish the show and hit the click post to iHeart, we will have 100. That's one of their key goals. I'm not too concerned about it. If we wind up very close to 100 by the time we have our very first broadcast, that's a pretty strong indication that we have some support out there and we can start to spread the word. So where was I before I went into that? So the standard format has always been to give out local information, local bullet points. We're about connecting the dots. So I will continue to do that, but to my faithful group of listeners, understand that our voice is now going to be much broader, although it'll be in a digital format. And the reason we did this is because I may have told some of you the story. When I would talk to young folks, I would tell them that I had a radio show and that I was interested in having them on the show. And as they would very politely and kind of in a perfunctory manner say, "Gee, Doc, that's great," the whole time they were reaching in their pocket and pulling out their smartphone. And about the time they would say, "Gee, that's great," they'd fire up their smartphone and say, "Do you have a podcast?" In other words, they don't expect to be near an AM radio at one particular night of each week, but they would like to hear the message. So that's why we went down this path. Those are the folks that we're going after. Those are the folks that we want to hear from. We need to know their opinions. We need to know what they're thinking. That we need to know where their head is, because if we're going to help lead, guide, and direct this fight or this challenge of getting the United States back on track, we absolutely need to know, where they're coming from. I can tell from the background that obviously I need to turn the sound off of other programs that I have running. Sorry about that. We'll correct it next time out. The other thing is about the, as I call it, the Ute movement, and I'm not talking about the Indians native to Idaho in that area. I'm talking about the Utes that were on My Cousin Vinny, and we've played that clip a couple of times. This is the way to reach them. That's also, as luck would have it, the reason that I moved it to Thursday night. Number one, my traditional audience and followers were being challenged to listen on Wednesday night because that's church night. It's also choir night. There's a lot of conflicts of interest going on, and so Thursday night appeared to be pretty much an open night for the folks to join in. As it turns out, and I learned later, Thursday night is also college night. So, unbeknownst to me, this is the night that the young folks are gathering and getting together, and I guess getting ready for their weekend break. And that usually, starts around 9 o'clock or so. So maybe I'll get a chance to chat with them before they head out for the evening and can plant some seeds and plant some ideas that they can then bounce off of their peers and see how that works. That's really the intent. That's how this works, is to help us understand one for the other where we're coming from, what's important, what's not important. If you've gone out and looked at the podcast that I already have posted, you will note that my interview with Mr. Riley Zander the head of the Alamo Heights High School Young Republican Club, is at the top of the list. The reason for that is that's what I want everybody to understand. This is where we're coming from. It's the type of conversation that I had with Riley and another gentleman here in town that's from St. Mary's University Young Republicans. Those are the type of folks that I want to talk to. It's absolutely critical that we understand where they're coming from. I'll bring up some bullet points as we get into more of the agenda of the show that'll help you understand where I'm coming from. I get a daily e-blurb from a group called Crowned Grace International that I'm lucky enough to be an author in one of their publications, which is they're focused on leadership. And I got one just the other day that says, leadership does not always wear the harness of compromise. The harness of compromise. Now, it's a little scary who that quote is from. It's from Woodrow Wilson. But the point is the same. It's one of the points that I've been making about Ted Cruz and others who have a tendency to stick their neck out and not always compromise. Another one of my phrases that seems to be coming up lately is, if you don't stand for something, then you don't stand for anything. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of compromise, just for the sake of compromise. It hasn't served us very well over the last 50 years. It has moved the ball down the playing field of the liberal agenda to the point that it now has an awful lot of people's attention, and it needs to be kind of moved back the other way. I also have another question for you. I know most of you, if I ask you what's the definition for insanity, you would give me the phrase that quotes Albert Einstein. And by the way, I did some research on that. That picture that's so famous of him, it was well known at the time that he was having a bad hair day. That's not the way he looked all the time, but it just sort of became his face to the public, and that worked. I guess he's like that. There's a singer that did the same thing. I can see him, Rod Stewart. Anyway, so this one, the one that's attributed to Einstein, the statement about the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's it. We need to remember that, and it's that sort of statement that has led, one of the reasons that I'm going down the digital path, to try to get different results from the same effort. I'll give you one here that I thought was rather amusing about another definition of insanity, and it's from Ben Stein. It says, "Fathom the hypocrisy of a government that requires every citizen to prove they are insured, but not everyone must prove they are a citizen. And now, any of those who refuse or are unable to prove they are citizens will receive free insurance paid for by those who are forced to buy insurance because they are citizens." That might be a little hard to wrap your head around without actually seeing it in print and being able to read it 3 or 4 times, which I've had the opportunity to do. But it it just points to the ridiculousness of some of the things that can come out of our current governing body. So let me dive into some of the local events. We are not constrained by taking a break at the 15, 30, and 45-minute mark. We're also not constrained by some of the other things that go on in